Well, thank you, Rajni Uncle, for the kind introduction. So the topic that I'm going to talk about is how will you measure your life? The request is, can everybody please be quiet? That does help me though. Thank you. So let me start with a story. This is a story about three men who get together and try and figure out how they want to measure their life. And it includes, the story includes men because I guess women have already probably figured that out. So one of the guys says, the best way to measure our life is to just pretend or imagine that it's our funeral, our friends, relatives, everybody has gotten together, and they are saying all kinds of things about us, and what do we want them to say? That is a true measure of the life that we lived. So everybody agrees, good idea. And the first man goes, what I want people to say is, he was a great father, he was a great husband. And everybody nods, yeah, that's a good way to measure a life. The second gentleman goes, I want people to say he was very successful, but then at the same time he was very generous. So he shared his success with others. So, again, there are nods in the group. That's a good way to measure the life. The third person says, what? When I am lying in the casket and there are people gather around it, I want them to say, look everyone, he's moving. Okay. So as you can see, I'm technology agnostic, but here's what we're going to talk about. The first one is measuring life using worldly achievements. The second one is measuring life by using or gauging our positive impact on others. The third way we're going to measure life is using happiness quotient. Now this is a term that I came up with. Shailesh Anandji talked about IQ, SQ, which is spiritual quotient, and EQ, that is emotional quotient. This is HQ, and I haven't patented this yet, but I hope to make some money off of it. And that's the ability, from my standpoint, to make other people happy. Not making yourself happy, but making other people happy. And the last thing we're going to talk about is measuring our life by our code of conduct. How do we conduct our daily life every day? And then, we'll have some time for Q&A, and Shailesh Anandji will probably present his perspective on this topic as well, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So the first question is, why should we even measure our life? Why is it so important? So let's take an example. Let's say you're going from Chicago to Kansas City, a few hundred miles. If you're me, as my wife can attest, you can drive aimlessly from point A to point B, and Rajni Uncle can be witness to that yesterday where we got lost. But that's definitely not a good way to drive, because you want to see what kind of progress you made, how many miles are left, how long it's going to take you, and that involves measurement. Similarly in life, if you are aimlessly going from point A to point B without having any gauge of what's happening, are you making any progress, are you getting to be a better person, so on and so forth, it's a life kind of wasted. It's an aimless life. So it's very important that we measure our life. So there are different ways to measure a life. People measure their life by fame, by fortune, by how good of a parent you are, by how good of a husband you were, so on and so forth. So I want to pose this question to the audience and maybe get some feedback. Are there any other measures that you've thought about when you reflect on your life that would be a good measure? So anybody in the audience who wants to chime in? Must be getting close to lunch. Harish Bhai, yes.
You're talking about measuring aspect.
Right.
Okay. Of whatever you are doing.
Right.
And whether you're succeeding in that or not.
Right. And
now
what are some barometers that you would use?
Right. Right. Now that could be a part of a relative existence of me. Now, what I might be trying, are you talking about spiritual measures?
Yeah, any measures that, people would like to use.
Right. So if I'm trying to measure my success or whether I'm going towards my goal in spiritual aspects, applying my relative means and methods of measuring, the question is, who's measuring that?
Right.
Who's measuring it? Is that entity a relative entity or is it somebody outside? Is there a standard of measure in spiritual? So that's a question when the word measuring comes.
Right.
Okay, because in management also, whether you're talking about empirical management, either in our office or whatnot, there have been a lot of debates about the measuring aspect of it.
Absolutely.
The productivity aspect of it and the efficiency aspect of it. But the moment you change the point of view or reference point, all the aspects of measuring aspects, they shift and change.
Yeah.
This is what I just wanted to know.
Excellent point. Shailishanji wants to say something.
Can I add something? Yes, Derek?
There is a measure in spiritual aspect also. And why the measurement? It is relative. But the measurer wants to get to measureless. And the spiritual enlightened ones have given the steps. It starts with realizing who am I. It starts with realizing my measureless nature. And then there are stepping stones. That is your stone where you have started. Then there are steps for purification of the relative self on one hand and establishing in the experience of the real self on the other hand. It goes hand in hand. It's known as gunasthanaks or steps. We may not go rigidly by that, but yes, there are guidelines to know whether spiritually also you are progressing well. Yes, the word is very good that okay, I am real, I am measureless, I am fine. Have you become established into that experience? To become fully established for all the time, you have to go through the stages and measures.
Thank you, Shailishan, for your feedback. So, as I mentioned earlier, the first general measure that comes to most people's mind is, we can measure our life by our worldly achievements. So we all have career goals, financial goals, family goals, and we spend most of our lives pursuing this. But what we find that even after achieving your career, financial, and family goals, there's a little part of us that thinks that I'm still not fulfilled. There's a big void in us, as Shailishan mentioned in his talk. So let's take example of Bill Gates. The guy founded a company that is the most successful company ever founded. He's on the top of the billionaires list or the richest person in the world. He's a lovely family, great wife who runs the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, 3 lovely kids. But he gave away the chairmanship of his company because he thought there was something more to life than just achieving the 3 aspects that I mentioned before. So again, this measure is very, very superficial and maybe incomplete as far as measuring our life. So what that leads us into is another measure that is effective from a worldly standpoint, and that is service to mankind. So this was mentioned in Shailishanji's talk as well. There is a Harvard Business School professor called Clayton Christensen, and he wrote a wonderful book that's called How to Measure Your Life. And in that he gives prescriptions on how we can live a meaningful life and how we can measure it. And what he says is his purpose is to always become the kind of person God wanted him to become. And from a very young age, what he started doing was to spend an hour every day, regardless of what happened, even when he was in a hospital bed, to reflect on, did I spend the day today living the way God wanted me to live? So am I aligned with the purpose that I'm supposed to be aligned with? And according to him, the measure of life is, and he talks about his interview with God. So when all is said and done, and he's talking to God, he says, God is going to ask me, let's talk about the individual people you help to become better. So this is talking about the service to mankind and the impact to others. So that's a good measure. Now, holistic science, from a worldly standpoint or from a relative standpoint, also says something similar. And what it says is we should use our mind, speech, and body in service of others. You know, Mother Teresa, whose picture is up there, is a great example. Mahatma Gandhi, and you know, the list can go on and on. And then it comes to the happiness quotient, and you can tell that I'm really proud of inventing this term. But what it means is it's your ability to make other people happy. And why is that important? Because as holistic science and other scriptures have said, your life is an echo. So the more you can make other people happy, the happier you will be. And you know, I have an example which is on the same lines as what Shaileshanji has mentioned. Is if you're planning a party for a colleague, let's say, who's having his or her 10th anniversary at work, just the act of planning that party, not even investing any money in it or actually throwing the party, makes you happy first before you make others happy. So there is that echo effect already there. And you know, on the flip side, I'm a professor at a business school, and if, let's say, a student walks up to me and says, you know, Mr. Shah, I heard from some people that you're not such a great teacher after all, and you know, you're not that fair either. So I cannot wait till I go back and confront that student of mine who had bad-mouthed me. Now, even before I confronted that student, I feel the echo of bad feelings already in me. And so whatever you do for others impacts you first. So your life is an echo. And that's why, again, to reiterate what Shaileshanji said, is we should open a happiness shop. And trust me, it doesn't cost a whole lot. And this is coming from a baniya, so trust me. The question then is this happiness permanent? Or is it not? And the answer to that is, from a holistic standpoint, is happiness from worldly things is temporary. It's like building a sand castle on the beach, you know, spend all these hours, it looks pretty, you take some pictures, you enjoy it with your friends, and it's just a matter of time before the tide comes and washes your sand castle off. So it's very fleeting, it's very temporary. Then that leads us to the next question. Where does permanent happiness come from? And is there something like that? Yes, there is something like permanent happiness, and that permanent happiness emanates from the soul. And I'm just going to leave it at that because Shaileshanji is going to cover this in much depth in his next topic, which is Vitrag Vignan, holistic science. Now, we're talking about happiness, and the four big barriers to happiness are anger, deceit, pride, and attachment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just focus on anger and see how we can use a vision from holistic science to overcome anger. So, you know, this is no surprise that anger disturbs you first and also disturbs others. So it really causes chaos, and it kind of dents your happiness in a negative way. And I have tried some approaches that have not worked, but I wanted to share my experiments with you. So here's the first one. And it about lasted 5 seconds. You know, I took a squeezy ball and, you know, squeezed it really hard, and I thought, you know, probably that would get rid of my anger, but doesn't work. You can dig a hole in the sand, it's a lot of work, and put your hand underneath it and maybe try and vent, but that doesn't work either. And the third thing is, I have 2 daughters, and so I am very familiar with this, is yelling at the top of your voice. And that doesn't take care of this as well. So what is the approach that works to you know, deal with this anger issue? And there is a great vision from holistic science, and that is the whole world is innocent. So again, I repeat that, the whole world is innocent. And that's the vision that helps us get over the anger issue. Here's how. Let me give you an example. So about a year ago, I was driving to work. I'd stopped at a light. and the light turned green. So, as normal people do, you start your car and take off. And the lady in front of me did the same and then abruptly stopped. So I was not in a position to stop, so I rear-ended her at maybe 3-4 miles an hour, not a major collision. She pulls over, and being a decent guy, I think I pull over behind her just to make sure everything's okay. I get out of my car, I look at her car, nothing's wrong with her, her car, no dents, nothing, because it was a very minor impact. And then I look at my car, it's fine. I approach her to just make sure that she's okay. And lo and behold, she's calling 911. Because according to her, the impact that I created at 4 miles an hour caused her like some severe back pain. So within like 2 minutes, it's like a scene from a movie. There are like 2 ambulances, a fire truck, and 2 cop cars at the scene. And I am really angry because here are the thoughts that are going through my mind. This lady's out to get the system. She's taking advantage of the system. She can make a medical claim, get money out of it, and my life is hell. Then this vision flashes into my mind that the whole world is innocent. So let's see how that vision plays out in this context. So according to holistic science, that lady was just an instrument of nature to inflict or to serve the justice of nature. So as we say here in America, don't kill the messenger or don't shoot the messenger. So she was just a messenger to deliver the justice because of some bad karmas that I may have had in past. So essentially, she was innocent. And once that vision flashed in my mind and this understanding came to me, my blood pressure dropped quite a bit. There was a smile in the face, although, Bhumika, I was not showing my teeth again, because I'm always conscious of that. But again, it's not something easy to do, but I think as you practice this and do it over and over again, and you have this understanding, then it is definitely possible to get over the anger issues. The last way I'm going to talk about how to measure life is by our code of conduct. This is how you conduct your daily life. This is how you live your life day in and day out. And holistic science has a beautiful way of summarizing how you should live your life in just one brief sentence. Let my mind, speech, body not hurt any living being in the world, even to the slightest extent, and let my mind, body, speech be used to oblige others. Now, in your handout, you had that fold out that has the 9 projections for living, and it's very helpful. I'm talking from personal experience to go through those every day before you start your day, because if you keep doing that, it will slowly start becoming part of your life, and you will be conscious and aware of that. Now, based on those 9 projections, I created a scorecard, which is a good way to reflect at the end of the day. So, after everything is said and done in the evening, take 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes to see, did I hurt anybody's ego? Did I offend a religious head? Did I hurt the foundation or religion or faith? Do I have feelings of hatred or dislike towards anyone? And your family members are excluded from that question. And did I have a balanced diet? Did I act as an instrument? It should be act, not ask. Did I act as an instrument for the welfare of mankind? So I think if you do that reflection every day, you will see what kind of life you lived for that day and what kind of corrections you need to make going forward. So in summary, I want to say that there are 3 effective ways to measure our life, and I'm sure there are many more, but for this talk. The first one is, did you help others? Did you oblige others? The second one is, did you make others happy? Did you, open a happiness shop, as we say? And the last way is, did you follow the divine codes of conduct? And I think this is a good scorecard to live your life. And that scorecard would, if we ask ourselves, what grade would we give ourselves for living a certain day when we reflect in the evening? Thank you. I want to have Saileshanji come and maybe have a few points and then we'll take some questions.
Manish Shah has really carried us nicely, and I need to learn some art from him. Anyway, from relative to real, as Harish Bhai is pointing out, where we have traveled nicely in a territory of relative. Now, when we want to go to the territory of real, what's the ultimate aim of my life? Is to know who am I, why? Because then only I can get rid of all the puzzles, all the bondages, all the things which I want to. So my next yardstick would be whether really I have been able to experience. No is not by words. If it would have been by words, Google search would have provided everything. But unfortunately, not only Google, for Vedas also say neti neti. So I want to experience true nature of my real self. And not only start there, but I want to reach the completeness of that experience, which is, we can say, is liberation. So there is a starting point and there is end point of that journey too. So next I would measure my life whether I have been able to fulfill my ultimate aim or ultimate goal. That's one. Second, I would measure my life moment to moment with the inner awareness. Which type of awareness? In particular given instance, outside I may be rated good. What happened within me? Did I have inner weaknesses of anger, greed, pride, deceit, opinions, beliefs? Or did I come through that event successfully without having all these inner weaknesses and rather remaining on the side of restraint? So positive, negative. So what is happening within me each moment? Or even major events. See, what I do is, at the end of the day, I ask my relative self, wait a few minutes before going to bed. Let's have a review of the whole day, how the whole day have passed, not only outside but from within. How I have remained from within. So I feel like adding these 2 points. One is about the real self and achieving that aim. And second, my inner self, how I have lived from within during the day. I think that.
Any questions?
I have one question that all adults knows that hurting each other, angry, stealing, anything is a bad stuff, right? But still they say the happen is happen. You can't control anything. So how we can control all this anger, stealing, lying, everything? Because they say it depends on the nature, happen is happen. So how we can do that?
I think I will just quickly make a point and then hand it over to Shailesh Anandji. But what he mentioned in his previous talk is, if something happens, and as he mentioned, not everything is under control, there is a very powerful tool called pratikaman, to repent for your mistakes and to wipe that blot off your life. So there are things in speech, mind, action that happen, and even though we have made a firm resolve, we still end up doing the bad things that we didn't want to do, but there is a tool that we can use to erase that bad blot from our life. Shailesh.
So this is where I just was telling in my previous talk that still I am left out, and I'll cover that important part. The whole world, most of the preachers, teachers, scriptures, everybody tells you and me, do this, don't do this. We also decide like that, but we can't behave like that. Duryodhan said the same thing to Krishna. Janami dharmam nachame pravrutti, janami adharmam nachame nivrutti. I know what should be done, but I can't do it. I know what should not be done, but I can't refrain from it. And this holistic inner science gives the answer here. What is that answer? Can you change the fruit or you have to change the seed? Can you change the effect or you have to change the cause? Cause. So that's very much, and that is the part of my relative free will. It's not that happened is happened. No, I can't escape that. On what basis that has happened? It's my seed which has now become fruit, So I was responsible for planting that seed. Now when it has become fruit, okay, I may not be able, but now I should change the seed. So what holistic science says is, change your understanding. I'll give you a simple example. Suppose I became angry, even though I wanted not to become. What I should do is, not only do the pratikraman, but decide, find out how I cannot repeat that again. So not only 9 codes of conduct, but other visions tell me how my inner self should change. So by change of understanding, my inner opinion, my inner decisions, and my inner projections change, which is very easy, which is in my hand, which is my relative free will. And today's understanding will follow in tomorrow's behavior. You get my point? So I can't just escape by saying that happened is happened. No. It has truth, but it is partial truth that you cannot change effect or fruit. But at the same time, because I was responsible for planting that seed in the past due to past beliefs, I should do the cleansing process, and again I should implant the new seeds in the form of new understanding, decisions and projections, which will bear the fruits which I want to bear. I hope I'm clear. Okay? So there are 2 parts of life. I'll come through whenever the time permits me, so that can be explained better. But you have brought out a very good question.
So it is right. Is there a difference between holistic science of inner self and the holistic science, I mean, in terms of principles of holistic science for the outer world? Are they uniquely different, or they are same?
See,
your knowledge of, let's say, holistic science based on outer world, let's say like brick is a brick. So as an architect, I know that's what to do with the brick or what to do with the glass, because I can't change the glass, but I know how to use the glass. Now, in terms of inner holistic science, can I apply the same kind of principles when I understand certain aspects of what I change and I can't change, and how do I compose?
Yeah. First of all, let me elaborate a little on holistic word. Holistic means all inclusive, all comprehensive. So the word itself says that everything is whole, you are a part of whole, and even outer science and inner science, I would say, they are not separate or compartmentalized. This is in a spectrum of the whole complete science. But because the world has not focused, not known, or the tools and laboratories of the world cannot see within, the enlightened ones went within and they tried to fulfill that spectrum of inner self, and that makes the thing as one. But from the terms of science, I think inner or outer, it's a continuous spectrum, and the fundamentals and principles, once they are known, should be the same. They apply the similar way. But because world has not been able to understand, experiment and experience the fundamentals of the inner self, this is where we are trying to seek the help from the enlightened one's visions and trying to experiment our own inner self.
It becomes very hard to connect the holistic science for inner self, as if when you're trying to live a normal life, as if it stands on its own. And when I sit and think about thoughts, and through my thoughts, if I really get into my inner self, then and then only I understand holistic science of inner self. But when I'm making a roti or dal, I'm also applying the science of holistic aspects, because I have already understood that salt is always salt, and in order to make a good dal, I have to have the mixture of this, and this. And those principles of making dal can be applied to the combination once I understand all the essence of inner existence in a way.
Yeah, I would say that holistic inner science is not at all hard. In fact, it is the most easy, effortless, beneficial for one and all, literate or illiterate, irrespective of caste, color, creed, socio-economic barriers, nationality, or even the literary barriers. Only thing is, initially, see, if I start making dal, I'll make something else, and this group will laugh at me. Unless I know how to make dal a couple of times, and unless I experiment with it, it doesn't become effortless for me. So initially, everything needs a little focus or little learning. Similarly, initial understanding of holistic science may seem like you are applying yourself, but I have experienced that this is the most easy science. Does it become hard to be yourself? It should be the easiest most. Does it become hard to return back to your own home? No, it should be the most easy way. But unfortunately, we have been tuned and trained and habituated and accustomed to live in the other dimension. So it appears like once it is known, probably it is the most easy part. Gnani Purush used to explain very simply. Is it hard to boil the water or is it hard to make it cool? Boiling requires a lot of efforts. Cooling by its own nature, it becomes cool because it's own very nature. So this is, I'm returning to my own nature. But while returning to my own nature, why? Because I was bonded and conditioned with ignorance. Now I am getting to the knowledge light. Is it difficult to, would you wipe off the darkness or would you light up only a small bulb? So a small bulb of holistic inner science knowledge will wipe off everything. And that has been the experience with everybody.
Because if you really take a bird or if you take a tree and it has already built-in purpose and built-in intelligence. So nobody is going to school. If I'm a bird, I don't go to school and learn how to fly. It's part of my nature,
yes.
Right from my birth.
Yes.
I understand my wings, I understand my body. So my physical existence is already intuitively understood by my spiritual intelligence. And what I'm doing is being but natural. I'm not talking about being natural. I'm just being natural. So aren't there a lot of people who don't know anything about holistic science, but they are truly holistic?
Okay. They may be, they may not be. And my criteria how to measure are very simple. I believe that what gives result is the knowledge. If you have correct knowledge, correct understanding, right thing, the result of the experiment should be correct. If you are not getting correct result, either your understanding is wrong, either your experiment knowledge is wrong, or either your methodology is wrong. Is that correct? If there is no light in this hole and at the 9 o'clock if you want me to go out, I will have so many stumblings. If there is one light, I will not have. So what are those measures? Number one, as he was saying, number one, do I have happy, harmonious human living day in, day out? Or do I have a lot of clashes? Do I have difficulties in adjustment? Do I have adhi, vyadhi, upadhi, mental agonies, bodily pains, or somebody disturbing me? See, I was fascinated by a very small story. When watching a TV, a remote, we like to keep remote in our hand. What do you think, all of you? Whether remote of your own living is in your hand or in somebody's hand, else's hand? There is no answer. Many times it is in somebody else's hand. If somebody can speak something to provocate me, remote has gone into his hand. So, number one, if it is natural, if I am correct lines, my clashes should go away, my disadjustment problem should go away. I should be in Adi, Vyadi, Upadhi, I should be in Samadhi. That is criteria one. Criteria two, my inner binding weaknesses of anger, greed, pride, deceit should go on getting less and less controllable and then totally eliminated. Criteria number three, I should be able to experience the very nature of my true identity. Why it becomes difficult? Because of ego that is looking out, that has become out of reality. Now I have to return back to my own reality. So if the results are being seen, as he said, if you are moving on a correct track, the mileage should show that you are going towards the correct destination. If it is not showing, probably you believe to be going correctly, but probably you are not. So looking to what is coming my way, I will decide whether it has become natural for me.
I think we can take one last question before lunch break.
It's easy, but it's not easy as long as you do not get a guide who is very easy.
So, to my question is, how do you differentiate between laziness and being at peace?
Laziness and being at peace. After meals, we all will be lazy. So there's I think it's apparent difference. One can understand one's own self. Laziness is at the mind, body, speech level, and you don't feel like doing anything. So peace is different. Peace peace is even within, amongst all hectic activities or amongst everything going on, you are at ease with yourself and you are at resolution and harmony with yourself. That is a peace. Laziness doesn't give you. When you're lazy, your inner self continuously pokes at you. Why are you lying down? Why are you wasting time? Do something. Use the time. You are not at peace at that time.
All right, that's a nice way to round this up. It's 12:30, so it's time for lunch. We're going to have a 45-minute lunch. And I just wanted to make a quick announcement. We have some complimentary books. You've heard a lot of, things about holistic science. And there are some books out there on the table in the back of, table behind you that expound on the holistic science a little bit more. So please pick up a complimentary copy because these are direct words of the Gnani or the holistic science that are inscribed in there. So see you at 1:15 after lunch. Thank you.